of CAG, but then maybe that's the case. Maybe when all is said and done, CAG will always outclutch Xavier.
And ladies and gentlemen, I have an announcement to make. There have been substitutions on the side of Xavier Esports. Dreamer out, 30 corn in.
Also on the
side of CAG, the man of the hour, Tayo, is in the building.
Yeah, the incredible return, as it were. And that does mean Xavier are keeping Cyajin God in as well as Patapan. So this is very different now. Thiticorn on that support in over Dreamer. Dive already though in onto Queen means he is going to have to get raised up as they're looking for a bit of a wrap around here. Patapan trying to come in from the side, connects to Ken Mohororo's mech, goes Hunter Killer on Claire, but does need to be a little careful here. Tayo just trying to get the damage out, spamming away. They've popped Cyajin God, and that should be enough to stabilize on the defense here.
Such a quick 0 to 100 there for Dip as well, finding that kill on the Cyajin God. Pixie in for sight. No one else is even close to their ultimates. And Xavier's going to get dispatched here, just minus Patapan, who's kind of stuck in a difficult place.
Yikes.
And will get taken down by Tayo.
There's no good way out of that situation. Not with a Junkrat. He's got too much damage in those tight spaces, and that's if you were even able to avoid the trap. It's hard. It's very hard indeed. And what it means is it wastes time for Xavier. Now a minute of their time gone.
It's somewhat of a strange composition here. Strange to see a Zarya with a Winston, and at the same time a Doomfist in the middle of the mix. Interesting that we don't see a Genji out from the old Cyajin God, and currently they're just not able to find these opening picks.
Yeah, again, tanks getting popped early on. It's Death connecting these shots, and even with Queen getting rezzed, Olivier's out of the mech. They've lost their only DPS, and that's a crucial note here, by the way. They're not doing triple tank solo support, which we do see. They're going with solo DPS, and now that one DPS has swapped onto Widowmaker. So unfortunately, the damage output is so much more reduced unless those shots get connected. I lied though, swapped from Cyajin God.
And it has to come back to the Widow Genji combination here for Xavier Esports. Patapan challenging Dip is still very important. Talked about that in sort of the pre-game for Anubis. We need to see Dip getting shut down. We need to see Dip getting pressured, or else Xavier are going to be in a difficult place.
And this is the big commit. CAG have deep, deep pockets coming into this fight, already popping Queen, and one might be plenty enough. Contesting that high ground now, Depp going in the sniper battle against Patapan, and Tayo unfortunately gets mined by Cyajin God. Catch on Tay as well. And despite not actually dying up on that high ground, Patapan never got any shots of his own, and that was a very cheap fight for CAG.
Extremely resourceful there with 4 ultimates still available. Patapan does get one back, and interestingly onto Clear as well, so the one member who cannot get resurrected. So CYCLOPS at the gaming, 5 members against 6. Xavier, they gotta go before the 6th member returns.
It's big, but there is the catch on Cyajin God. That slows down Xavier. Thiticorn takes a chunk. Not going to die just yet. That's a saving grace. They have had to use a Transcendence here, though. So Xavier,
not ideal.
Limited in tools, and now even less. Sabagod, his own Transcendence, and Claire's been able to rejoin. So CAG kicked this one off with a numerical advantage. Good dive onto Sabagod, rather. Tayo going to answer that back pretty quick, smart. Even as he goes down, CAG lots of presence on this point. Namely, the tank still being present, and Claire still in the fight as well. Xavier, again, not going to crack it this time around.
We are starting to see CYCLOPS at the gaming kind of having to readjust this defense, though. They knew they were 1 member down. They quickly traded one, but it was still a 5 versus 5. CYCLOPS at the gaming felt the pressure had to move backwards towards their point. So Xavier are making some positional progress. What they are not making progress on, unfortunately, is in terms of the time department and the objective department. CAG now sitting back up to the high ground. Xavier almost feel like they're back to square one.
They essentially are. I mean, the lack of ultimates is one thing. They only just get that Dragon Blade up now. They don't have defensive ultimates. There's no Transcendence to keep Cyajin safe through this. You have to go in anyway. They have got Samuraider, but he's going to get cut in the back from Ken Mohororo self-destruct. Tayo finds one with the Riptire as well. Good catch on Claire, though, and Sabagod down as well. It's just Ken Mohororo and Depp, but Depp's doing the work, and Ken Mohororo can anchor the point. Question is, can CAG get back quick enough? Xavier had the closer respawns, but Xavier is still losing members. Tay down to the Bunny Blaster from Ken Mohororo. They should start flooding back back in, though, now that Saiyajin God can get back in. But Teo's rejoined. Who gets popped down? Saiyajin God low, but Samurai will not quite finish it off. That is riding by the seat of your pants there for Saiyajin God. I want to know how low his health is, but Xavier will just barely cap A.
And these are the kind of trades that you need to see Xavier start getting, even if they're kind of in a losing position. As long as they're maintaining parity with the other team, they get a respawn advantage, and they are utilizing that respawn advantage. They get the cap into the overtime under 4 minutes to get into this B point, but they do at least have ultimates, where CYCLOPS Athlete Gaming, for the first time on Anubis, do not.
Now Xavier, amazingly, have completely swung the tempo based off that. They've got the ultimate advantage. They should be able to get some snowball going. Patapan takes a chunk, though. That will draw some healing up. No, not in time. Teo finishes him off. They're one man down now. That means CAG have maybe just disrupted the tempo. Thidicon has to pop that Valkyrie a lot earlier than they'd like. And the team is going for a split attack here. That means Thidicon's going to have to work overtime. Catch on Tayo, though. That opens it up. Oh, headshot on Clear as well. Now Xavier finally getting this fight going and very much in their favor. Unfortunately, though, Tay didn't get too much done with the Transcendence and dies afterwards. Saiyajin God now Blade out. They might just be able to start closing this out here. Should at least be able to earn a tick, surely.
It might not do, because CYCLOPS Athlete Gaming do finally get these respawns in as well. We need to see a few more picks come out into play. Xavier need to start controlling these kind of respawns, but the picks are a little bit too even, and when they're this even, the defense is going to come out on top.
They at least did get that tick there. It was on a knife's edge for a moment. If Thidicon had been able to top a few crucial members up, they maybe could have got more. The moment he died, though, it was effectively all over, and everything from here has just been maybe an overcommitment from Xavier, including all of these ultimates and extra members. Yeah, they're staying in here, but they're not getting progress anymore. All they're doing is giving CYCLOPS Athlete Gaming more ultimate charge and wasting more of their own very limited time here, Xavier.
This is where they realize the fight is truly indeed over and on the retreat. CYCLOPS Athlete Gaming going to clean up a few more. Depp himself, 3 kills in the last couple of seconds there when he is unleashed, when he has the sight lines with Xavier on the retreat. This man will catch you by the tail, and now a compositional change for Xavier in the final 2 minutes remaining.
That's really rough for Xavier, because it didn't need to happen. There was a moment there where they could have retreated. That moment was when Thidicon died. Instead, they wasted a whole minute of nothing. Luckily, though, CAG have made some compositional change-ups of their own, so there's a moment here for Xavier losing Saiyajin God, though. That moment's effectively ended. They're now stuck in this side room waiting for respawns.
And they're getting flanked as well. Tayo's already moving onto the side. If Xavier want to get this attack on, they want to start the brawl onto the point, they need to catch these DPS members. So far, Depp and Tayo are just safe. And with these Xavier members going down, this push looks like it's over.
It is effectively over. I mean, it was always going to be an uphill battle, even more steeply so because of that defender's respawn advantage, adds to say nothing of the positional advantage. But because Xavier chose to commit there in that risky situation, they end up worse off for having lost that by a massive margin. Look at the ultimates on CAG.
We might be in July right now, but it's 25th of December for CAG. 6 ultimates. Christmas tree is fully lit up, and for Xavier now, running into their final minute, under that final minute, gonna go for the flank again. But so many ultimates to go against and not enough time to blow through all of them first.
I don't know if the Japanese celebrate Christmas, but hey, like you said, they've got the tree up anyway, and it looks beautiful. So far, oh no, Depp has connected. I was going to say it looks like the ults are going wide, but that Riptire on Tay gives a numerical advantage. It's a slight one, but it's all they need when you're on the defense here. The few resources Xavier have out in full force now. Coalescence, not going to get much work done. They do at least drop Depp, but they've lost Saiyajin God. Queen, unless he gets a massive Earth Shatter, I don't see Xavier getting much headway here. They've at least burned through the ultimates of CYCLOPS Athlete Gaming. They get Saber God here. Olivier back in the mech, just barely. Tay, I believe, has been able to now rejoin. They are still in this. The question is, can they at least convert that into a lead on the offense here? That's what Xavier needs. Staying in it is not enough, but they have turned it into a lead. They get a little more progress, and now they're getting kills to boot. That is an unfortunate Dragon Strike from Tayo, goes right into the ground. They pop Olivier's mech, but a sound barrier keeps them safe. And Xavier, at the 11th hour, look like they're going to do it. Oh! Back around. No! Depp with a Riptire. Is that enough? Queen charges back in. Oh my god, it's been enough. That was so tight at the last second. That Riptire nearly dashed Xavier's hopes that had only barely been ignited.
That was kind of a hope for CYCLOPS at the game, though. They were the ones who were strangely, surprisingly behind for that fight, and the ultimate's not really hitting their mark. We saw the first Dragon Strike come out of Tayo, didn't quite hit onto the members that he was looking for. Second Dragon Strike comes through again, just didn't really connect. Gets himself a kill onto Olivier, but the rest of Xavier are still in this fight. They've never actually finished off Olivier because he gets a remake inside the Diva. And for Xavier Esports, the sustain was enough. Triple support, the healing was so good. And from Depp's point of view, he just didn't get that tire out in time. Note that there was a tire. He started with a tire. Only towards the end, he got that triple kill, but not enough CAG members alive to really contest the point.
That's what Xavier are capable of. Lasting through all of those ultimates. We talked about the whole Christmas tree, the full 6. Not one of them hit its mark. And Xavier lasted through all of that and then started getting the upper hand in the fight. That is very, very good play. There's no two ways about that. CAG now on their offense have to be at least comparable. The unfortunate thing for Xavier, though, is both of those caps only happened in overtime.
The other thing is we didn't quite see the playmaking potential of the CAG there as well. On most of the fights they've won, where they've won significantly as well, we see either Depp or Tayo or Anakin when he was playing as well really pull off some big shots, shut down key members of Xavier at the right time. Depp on the Widowmaker specifically was such a big instrument. And then towards the end, when we see the compositional change, Tayo onto Hanzo, who I'm sure is pretty a decent Hanzo, and Depp onto the Junkrat, who got a pretty quick Riptire. Didn't quite see that. We saw that towards the end, but again, when the triple kill came out, it was already too late. So now, in the attacking phase for CAG, what kind of time can we expect?
This is a very interesting setup from Xavier. I dare say very diveable. Their two supports have very few escape tools. They need to land 5 balls or sleep darts from Thitticorn. CYCLOPS backs up, gonna get topped off.
And no room for error either, no resurrection available because there is no mercy for Xavier Esports, and Patapan's gonna go hunting mode onto Depth. It's a good option for him. You need to shut this man down, and even if this 1v1 isn't a victory for Patapan, at least not immediately, Depth is out of the fight.
Yeah, and meanwhile, though, the rest of the team is getting dove while Patapan is not there to counter-dive the people who dive, and that means they lose Tay. Now it's just Thitticorn again, very immobile here, having to solo heal up. Queen taken so much hurt. This is giving CAG a big window. They did lose some members in the trade, but with the closer respawns, yeah, D-making Ken Mahororo, but they lose Olivier. Xavier, just when it seems like they might start stabilizing, they start losing more members again, and this is where that respawn will inevitably favor CAG.
Tayo's got a quick blade in here as well. He might not even have to use it. He'd prefer not to use this because it's appearing like Xavier are going to drop out of this point at any moment. Just as I say that, Queen manages to sneak himself in a Primal Rage. Last legs into this one. If Patapan can land a Pulse Bomb, maybe they defend, but otherwise it's not looking good.
Yeah, not looking good at all. Queen now with that Primal Rage having run out. Olivier has chosen to come in to just stall out a bit longer, but what it really does is just provides more ultimate charge to CAG. The one member, Samurai, who didn't have that ultimate yet, now has it, thanks to Olivier's kind donation.
Christmas comes twice a year for this team, and as they cap out this first point, this is the mother of all snowball pushes. I don't know what Xavier can do here. They do have some ultimates, and I guess the only thing they can hold on to is, well, we survived this once, maybe we survive again.
Early catch on Samurai, though, is big. That's the ultimate that is no longer there. Samurai could have done a lot of work with that Primal Rage. Plus, yeah, great timing on the Transcendence from Tay has really saved the day as well. Samurai will be able to rejoin this one, but by the time he gets there, Ken Mahororo will be dead. And Sabagod getting pressured back. Saiyan God does have to put the blade away, but there's Samurai rejoining. They recognize that the moment has passed. They didn't quite get that big money push with the 6 ultimates available. Xavier just barely able to stabilize. I say barely. It actually looked relatively comfortable when you consider how much of an advantage CAG were at.
Yeah, it was an insurmountable advantage even, but they received cold twice a year. I mean, that's really disappointing for CAG. A couple of compositional changes out now. I guess they've spent most of their ultimates, nearly all the ultimates. Samurai is going to be somewhat disappointed to lose a Primal Rage, but it's going to be the full goats now coming on through. Patapan's going to respond himself with a May. This is going to be a smart pick. Cutting off the healing for CYCLOPS FD Gaming is how Xavier can dismantle this comp.
And there you see it, just that extra time that Sabagod and Claire spend working around that wall. That's to say nothing of that pass through, the penetration on the ice. Depth does go down. CAG getting beaten back pretty handily from that one. That's just outplaying straight through and through for Xavier, and now they start to charge up some ultimates on the defense. CAG really going to have their work cut out for them.
Control's going to be important here for Xavier Esports. When I talk about control, I'm talking about crowd control. So it's going to be the Graviton Surge. It has to come from the Blizzard, the slows from Patty Pan as well. But right now, Xavier are anything but slow, chasing after these kills. Punish is exactly the word that describes what happened there. And Dep's changing onto the Doomfist. It could be a good one, but at the same time, I mean, we need to see the playmaking come out of this team. So on that hand, you probably agree with this change. Dep on a Brigida, not really the playmaking type.
Now the tough thing is going to be getting work out of this Doomfist before these ultimates that can just completely negate him come up. He gets caught in an Earth Shatter, gets caught in a Blizzard. That dude is done for. Even getting caught in a grab would be a death sentence for Dep here. There is a window though with the ultimate CAG do have. Now Olivier, that's a good one as well. Takes that ultimate off the table, but frozen solid, drops straight down, grab underneath the bridge. Clever placement. Coalescence forced out. They get some kills in. Xavier do get a res up though. Queens didn't get the Earth Shatter, but Tay with this Transcendence can stall with Olivier and Thiticorn, make sure that they stay alive for the respawns from Queen and Patapan. The third not quite there for CAG as Tayo popped. They trade back, but Xavier are back in full force. Blizzard out now means CAG getting slowed up on the point, and that's the last few members getting picked off as they are stuck still in frozen ice.
And not quite 33% as well. It's not going to be a tick ready for CYCLOPS Athlete Gaming. They did start to really pressure Xavier though. They had to start forcing some big ultimates out. Graviton Surge, they kind of survived that one. Blizzard was a little bit more of a nail in the coffin for CAG, and now we're starting to look at the time at 2 minutes 50. Still some opportunity to get some pushes in there. Dep also found some pretty big kills, opened up with one against Tay. He's going to need another one of those kills to open up the point again, and then some further kills as well, if CYCLOPS Athlete Gaming are going to be up to cap.
It would have been much more reasonable for CAG if they'd got a third off it. They do at least come up on those ultimates, but Xavier with ones of their own, if they can just repeat the success, they should have no trouble here. Rally out from Cyclops God though, only gets half of the members. Tay Olivier only just getting their armor up now. Dep looking for the angle, finds Thiticorn, big catch, no res for Patapan now. Olivier coming up on a grab, but might not have a chance to use it. Barely gets that one out. Dep as well, caught in a charge. Slowly drifts down to the ground. They're getting the trades in, they keep cleared down, that's big. The res had already gone through onto Dep, but no more reses from there on out, and thanks to that, Xavier having no trouble cleaning up the rest. Patapan's own Doomfist showing Dep how it's done.
The Graviton Surge came out in time as well for Patapan to get that work done. Curious where that grab, well, the grab Meteor Strike combo was for CYCLOPS Athlete Gaming. You did see Tayo use the grab, didn't quite see where it landed, and you had to look at a situation where for Dep, Meteor Strike came out onto the side, did pick himself a kill onto Thiticorn, but ultimately it was Patapan coming out, Queen as well staying alive, catching Dep in a nice charge. I mean, Xavier hanging on to this one. You're starting to think CYCLOPS Athlete Gaming might not be able to finish the map.
Genma Hororo had to reset the mech there as well. It's only a small detail, but again, it's another way in which Xavier are eking out a continued ultimate advantage. Dive onto Thiticorn though, that's the ideal target. No reses now for Xavier. They need to answer back. The Earth Shatter's a good way to do it. Tayo gets res, but Dep is dead. And Genma Hororo again out of the mech. Good Transcendence from Sabagod keeps these remaining members up, but it's only remaining members. Xavier have the numerical advantage that is now landsliding into a victory. One good fight left for CAG. Xavier know it as well. They want to go deep here. They want to stall this out.
But it is the big ultimates now out of Xavier. No Shatter for the next one, no Meteor Strike, no Transcendence. And for CYCLOPS Athlete Gaming finally working their way up after this freshly changed composition. The Shimada brothers here, a Dragon and a Dragon Blade, should be a win condition. We need to see this push be the successful one. Otherwise, CYCLOPS Athlete Gaming is going to be full health.
The tough thing for them is that this rally is here from Cyclops God. Pops it out now. Everyone has that slight extra health.
Not Patapan.
Yeah, not Patapan. He's picked off by Dep. That's a rough start for the Thiticorn. Not going to look for a res on him, actually.
Dragon.
God, yeah, there's the Dragon Strike out over the team. Excuse me. Rakes across them. It's Tayo, though, getting the kills in. This self-destruct from Olivier needs to do work. No, it doesn't. Patapan, though, back up the gates, drops Teo. Claire will look for a res. Can Patapan stop that from happening? This is overtime now. There's still a long way to go for CAG. They lose Savagod. Xavier have lost members of their own, but the respawns still favor them. Only 1/3 so far. Patapan dead, though. These members of Xavier on the point. Down. Oh, Tay does not see Queen in time. Second Dragon Strike for depth to cut off the body as it tries to come to meet the head. Teo trading off with Tay. They're still chipping away at CAG, but it hasn't quite been enough. Can Saiyajin God tip the balance? They finish off depth. Saiyajin God can't commit to the point, though. Teo's down. Earth Shatter in. Dive onto Samurai, and CAG will not cap point 2. Xavier, they have managed to get just enough in to take the map, to make it happen, this time with a far better defense than what we saw on King's Row.
And they make it happen when things look the most dire. This is the kind of situation that we're talking about. Triple kills should be coming up from Dep over here, but as it's happening, man, it's just not enough members available for Cyclops Athlete Gaming in two almost back-to-back positions for CAG, where they had full 6 ultimates, once on the B defense, once on the B offense when they were attacking again. They couldn't do it. They couldn't complete the defense, nor could they complete that offense. And now 2-1 going to be the score so far. Xavier Esports climb it back in the series.
And I mean, that was just the perfect storm for Xavier. There's the two major things going on there. They played the macro game very, very well. Excuse me, they eked out and maintained a constant advantage on the defense. Notably so is when they shut down the Doom push from CAG, who had just got some extra picks on the way to that point B assault. That's a situation where often the snowball happens. There's nothing the defenders can do about it. Winning that fight and then coming out of it with an ultimate advantage was massive from Xavier. Maintaining that ultimate advantage is even more massive. It's execution followed by great macro play. That's what makes a defense last out, where for CAG it didn't.
But it's also the factor where it's not necessarily Xavier coming out ahead in terms of economics. Definitely CAG had the advantage in that regard for the majority of Anubis, and I'd say even the majority of the series so far. It's the fact that you have CAG in a position where they're not too sure what's working anymore. The 6 ultimate offense didn't quite work out. Full compositional change of the GOATs. Again, partway through, a few minutes in, didn't really feel that one either. Changing back onto 2 Shimada players as well. Didn't get that final completion, just a multitude of hero swaps and compositional changes that set them further and further back. Unfortunately, that didn't quite work out. Now, when you look at the side of Xavier, they kind of had a scenario where they're only going to change up a couple members. When you see the GOAT's going to come out, you saw the May come out in response as well. Then Palipan rescues his team with a Doomfist when Dep was on Doomfist. So, I mean, Xavier are able to match. And in fact, they don't just match, they get a slightly better result. And it just good enough result to give themselves a win. And we're going to go to map 4, Rialto.
Yeah, speaking of match, of course, there is still the rest of that to go. And we now go to that map 4. Xavier, because they picked up that win, they're still backs against the wall here, but they've given themselves the opportunity to tie it up. That keeps the opportunity for the win alive. This is really big for them after not quite eking it out on Oasis or King's Row, and even looking like things were getting worse for them just with how King's Row went for CAG. They have begun to turn it back around. It could just be all over though here. CAG, they do get to take it to Rialto. It's their pick, and we've seen them on Rialto in the past. They are a force to be reckoned with.
Interesting to see how Cyclops Athlete Gaming kind of bounced back from that previous loss as well. I think you can imagine from their side right now within the CAG camp, they got to feel like that was a very winnable map. In a very similar fashion to if you're Xavier on King's Row, you got to feel like there were ample opportunities for you to be in that map as well, potentially win it. For Temple of Anubis, CAG had multiple avenues where they could have definitely come out on top. Moving into the start of this map right now, going to see Thiddycorn still remaining on this roster. And it's going to be Tayo being moved out in favor of Anakin again. And I want to be able to say the potential here, or rather the reasoning, is probably for Anakin's Farah specifically.
Exactly. I mean, yes, well done. Exactly that. You know, it's nothing against Teo. It is just that you do want the Farah on this map. And it's something that Cyclops Athlete Gaming play to great effect on this map. So curious to see how it works out, because I have some very vivid memories of some very creative Farah plays against Widowmakers on Rialto. I've already seen a lot of that. And if anyone can do it, it's Anakin.
It's also a curious starting position for Xavier here as well. Going to look for the long rotation after this play. Didn't quite find an opening pick, but would have been a pretty decent start. Having said that, though, Pattypan immediately pops down Anakin.
Yeah, I mean, that's that's all you really need in one regard. Depp has to find angles back onto Pattypan to keep him sort of quelled, as it were, and do that on THK as well. They get the res in onto Depp after he got picked off, so CAG keep it going.
They don't want to wait too long. They don't want to wait for Depp to respawn. Just want to start this fight immediately. The card is already towards the end of this choke.
Oh.
A little bit of revenge here. This is going to be the 6v5 that CAG want.
Now Theticorn as well. I was going to say, just Pattypan alone being dead gives Anakin room to play within that big wide open sky above that courtyard. And they barely even needed to use him, right? The rest of the team had already just kind of pummeled through with the ground game, and CAG looking ripe to cap.
You got to imagine this kind of looks just like the Kings Row offense from CAG. Sabagod threads the needle, finds a couple of picks, and all they need is to snowball those picks forward. Suddenly CAG in a winnable position. Should be looking for a res here as well. Final defense for Xavier on A.
Yeah, but they've already lost too many members. Catching Depp is something. Actually,
good trades.
Going off. That's so crucial. But he goes down anyway, and there's just enough presence on the card for CAG to cap the point anyway. Nearly got it at the end there, but it was too little too late, unfortunately. You
feel the pressure onto both Kim Mohororo and Samurai as well, both with ultimates in hand. Yeah, if they were pressured anymore, you'd expect both the ultimates perhaps come down. That would have been a big win for Xavier, even if CAG, and ultimately they did cap as well.
Unfortunately, though, instead of that, what we have is a situation where CAG have those ultimates in pocket, and Xavier, they're really lacking for equivalent ultimates. There is the Graviton already out from Ken Mohororo and very quickly cleaned up upon. Keeps the cart rolling, and I mean, usually the comparison to Kings Row, this is just how CAG seem to be able to play on these payload maps.
And they're going to try and do what they couldn't finish on Anubis, which is push through with all this momentum and finish the map once and for all. And they have some ultimates to play with here. Xavier's still just kind of waiting. Valkyrie is available, but we don't have the Grav Dragon. Once that Grav Dragon is available for THK and Olivier, that's when Xavier can really step in.
Dip just keeping an eye on the angle. Anakin looking to go up and over here. Maybe find a way to get in around the back. Also keeping pressure up on that walkway. There's going to be the barrage. Nice turnaround to catch Tay. Didn't quite stop Anakin in time, or rather THK, but, well, I mean, I guess THK didn't stop Anakin in time either. He'd already died. That's the important thing. Anakin did the work. He got the kills through while the rest of his team won the ground game. And again, it's just rinse and repeat for Cyclops Athlete Gaming.
I think Anakin would be fine to die in that scenario as well. You see the shadow play coming out from Queen. Well, where's the rest of your team? Depp, or rather Anakin, just completely stops the reinforcements from Xavier to follow up on the tanks. You have a scenario where both Olivier and Queen walk up and, well, everyone else in your team's dead.
Xavier needs to make this Grab Dragon combo work for them. And there they go. There's the grab. Here's the dragon. Sweeps across the team. They made it work beautifully.
Bad news is Sabagod had already used Transcendence, and I guess good news for Xavier is recognizing that Transcendence is off the table. This is a basically 100% winnable fight as long as they catch a majority of members within the grab. In fact, if they don't even catch too many members, just getting a big enough player advantage will be enough. And now fully sustained, fully stabilized on this C defense. This is where the defense should really begin to start for Xavier.
CAG have swapped back onto a Pharah for Anakin here, so, I mean, it was working for them, then they chose to swap off. Swapping back on just means they reset their ultimate charge. It's an opportunity for Xavier to eke out that ultimate advantage like they did on Anubius. With Olivier dead, though, looking a bit harder.
Well, the interesting thing is the reason, well, I'll speak about that later, it's actually working out pretty decently. The reason it's going to work out now for Anakin is because there are still big shield tanks on the side of Xavier Esports. Part of the reason he wants to swap off the Pharah is once you're in this room, it's not quite as good. He's a lot more limited in terms of verticality. We'll leave it up to Samurai, though. Can he be the one to finish off this map for CAG?
Yeah, he's the one big ultimate they still have. The Dragon Strike comes through, though, to stop anyone contesting the payload, and it pays off. It kills Queen. Sabagod, that's a good Transcendence. Nicely timed. Stays alive. Rez comes in on Queen, but Xavier are still in recovery mode with no real tools to help them recover. Even that Earth Shatter from Queen not going to do any work for them. Meanwhile, the Rocket Barrage doing a lot of work for Anakin. Last few members to get picked off here, and the cap completes for Cyclops Athlete Gaming.
Some minor stop-ups there, take a little bit of detour for CAG, but ultimately they've reached their destination, and the change onto the fire are rewarded there for Anakin. Had they maybe lost another fight, you'd expect Anakin, after using the barrage, to definitely swap off. Something like a Junkrat would be better. Something else that really gets you into these tight positions. CAG don't need to worry about that, though. They finished them at 3 minutes and 12 seconds remaining. For Xavier, we go back to the sort of scenario now where their offense has to really carry them. When we look at some of their previous offenses, didn't quite finish Kings Row. That's a bit of a letdown. On Anubis as well, only barely got there into the overtime after CYCLOPS Athlete Gaming had failed to utilize all 6 of their ultimates effectively. So now, CAG learning from their mistakes on Anubis, or we're assuming they've learned from them. Can they get a full hold? Can CAG finish a 3-1 in this matchup? Or is Xavier going to take us to a map 5?
And my hunch would be that we're going to get a 3-1 here. Again, we've got to look back to Kings Row. CAG's attack here looked very reminiscent of that. Xavier's attack on Kings Row, it was good until suddenly it wasn't. And that leaves you with the fear that once CYCLOPS Athlete Gaming finds somewhere to dig in their heels on the defense, Xavier won't be able to dislodge them, won't be able to get the momentum back underway. But that was then, and this is now. Could be a completely different tune. They need to complete the map, though. That is the minimum requirement.
And I think to be able to complete this map, you need a good start on both the A and B offenses. Similar to what we saw from CYCLOPS Athlete Gaming, you're very likely to get stopped up on C. Usually the defense will, or rather the offense, will start to falter once we get to that C point. But for Xavier Esports, A and B, they have to bank up a lot of bonus time, get a lot of momentum, just like CAG did, and that's how they're going to finish the map.
Going to go head-to-head with a Faradul here, though. And Patapan is going to stick with a Hanzo for the time being. Not going to take the Widow to immediately contest Dep.
Dep's going to have free reign here. This is deadly.
Deadly, indeed. Kenma Hororo is taking a bit of a punishing there. But really, THK, he doesn't have a lot of room to play with. He's got Anakin threatening him in one regard, in the dogfight, and then also just the threat of death from the ground. But Sabagod finding Thitacorn in the sky.
Effortlessly.
As he was in the pocket of THK. I mean, that's... it's not unheard of, don't get me wrong, but that's certainly not the snipe you'd expect. Sabagod does get pressured out here. Patapan takes him down, and Xavier, with a closer respawn, should be able to start leveraging this.
Should be a resurrection coming into place, and there it is. And for Sabagod, staying alive here, getting an early Transcendence would definitely afford his team a lot of space to work with. Queen goes down, and Sabagod unfortunately dead again.
Yeah, Patapan is spending a lot of time flanking to kill Sabagod, and it's just not paying off. Sabagod can either get rezzed or Patapan ends up vulnerable. I want to see Xavier giving some more respect to the ground game. That's where they're losing right now. Being unable to crack CYCLOPS Athlete Gaming's tanks is what's stopping them from getting into the courtyard.
Speaking of CAG tanks here, they're going to get the first ultimates of the game up, in fact, ahead of the tanks of the Xavier guys, so this is going to be pretty important.
Yeah, the kill on Claire is really the opening they've been after, but Anakin, he's not done. Ooh, THK finds him though. Done. Yeah, now he's done. And he was coming up close to a rocket barrage, which probably could have saved CAG's defense there, but it will not be saved, it will be lost.
Kemo Hororo is kind of pressured out there, didn't quite get to use his grab. Sabagod waiting for a trance as well. This will be a continued A defense. In fact, they have the resources to get this done.
Yeah, this is the right call for sure. There's the grab in, pulls Queen up, but also pulls Tate in. They still get Queen and Patapan both until Thitacorn, going full Battle Mercy, will take out the Anakin in the sky. Nope, Anakin Skywalker, never mind. Xavier have kind of lost this one out though, unfortunately. Just a few too many members down. Relatively conservative with their ultimates though, and that may come back to save them in this next fight.
There you go, the early charge that CAG get from the damage output earlier on. Sabagod getting a bunch of kills here, still has the Transcendence available, and for CAG, because they had those earlier tank ultimates, they were able to come back in the final hour on this A defense. And the stall up here, the time lost, even if Xavier complete the push now, which they possibly could do, the courtyard is open. They've simply just lost too many minutes on the clock.
There's the res on THK, but he can't really stay too still to channel that rocket barrage. It leaves him too vulnerable to depth. Hey, super low. That pulls Thitacorn away from THK. That leaves THK vulnerable. There's the grab, though. Throwing a rocket barrage on. Doesn't get the work done. It's getting answered back. Dragon Strike raking across from Patapan. Got really nothing at all. And CAG, I mean, all the tools were there for Xavier. They committed them all in, but none of them actually connected. CAG just get to sit back and fire off enough shots to dislodge Xavier.
Well, once again, I mean, the grav comes down, the utility comes down for Xavier, but the damage does not follow up. The damage on the side of CYCLOPS Athlete Gaming, though, Depp just finds headshots, he finds kills. THK was immediately taken down. The fire in the sky gets swatted onto the floor, and just Xavier don't have what it takes in that push to get it across the line. 40 seconds remaining.
And here's what they could have done so long ago. They're going now for the double sniper. They can actually contest Depp more directly. They've got
there goes the Shatter.
Yeah, they have more direct contesting against Anakin as well. The Shatter is off the table, but they can res Queen. I expect that they will once they find an angle, but Anakin with that rocket barrage will be waiting for Thittercorn to go for it. Instead, they have to wait for Queen to get back the long way, and now Anakin looking for an angle. 10 seconds left. They need to take Anakin out of the skies here and do a lot more. They need to take these tanks off the table as well, because look at the ultimates between Kenma Horora and Samurai.
Step one.
They've finally got it. Exactly, step one. Now, can they follow the rest of the 10-step program? They've got two. They've got Depp out of the picture as well. The res gets to come in, and Anakin, because he got res, immediately connects with a 3K. Doesn't matter that he dies. The damage is done, and CAG are going to complete a courtyard hold here. It's King's Roll all over again, baby. A full hold for CAG and a full cap for them as well will create a map win and a 3-1 victory in the series.
And I might even say a little bit better than King's Row. At least on King's Row, Xavier made it towards the end of the map. Here, they couldn't even get past the first point. That is a very unfortunate scenario for Xavier to be in. When you look at their ability to win on Anubis, perhaps even off the back of some mishaps from CAG, a full power CAG squad coming into Rialto, very few mistakes, a lot more clutch plays. Sabagod once again coming online so big. You've got some big firepower here. Anakin's huge on the Farah. Tayo's good in general. Depp with the hit scan is insane. And then on top of that, if it wasn't enough, Sabagod as well into the Zen just finds the frags.
And it seems like there's this perfect storm of CAG doing so well on these payload maps and Xavier having a slight weakness on them. They aren't quite able to get the momentum going right. Their macro game is good. They've shown that. They proved that very handily on Temple of Anubis and also in some respects on Oasis. It just goes to show, if this was going to go a full 5, Xavier would have had to win Oasis. It just seems that in this situation, those payload maps are an insurmountable obstacle for them. That's something they are going to have to fix.
The other thing I kind of notice here, and I'm drawing some conclusions, and the accuracy may be debatable, but when you look at the substitutions that CAG made, the one map they lost was the one map that Tayo did come in for. Now, Tayo is a very good player in his own right, but Anakin has been practicing with the team for a lot longer than Tayo has, who's been kind of in the sub position for the past... I'm not going to give an exact time frame here because I don't know, but you can expect for a reasonable amount of time. He's been kind of stuck in studies, so Anakin's been more of a core player, and certainly the coordination there, certainly the team play coming out a lot better for CAG overall with Anakin in the mix. And the Farah, again, it's just very deadly for him. It's a great pick.
And they were always on maps where Farah was an option, even on King's Row where it's less so. I don't actually believe they ran it on King's Row, but I mean, it's not like Anakin can only play Farah. That's the thing. They've got deep pockets. They've got deep pools, and they played them. They used them to great effect. We saw quite a lot of variations out of CAG, but I have to say they keep the bones of strong sniper play, and they do that on Depp. That has also been, we can speak of Anakin's Farah, but really I feel Depp was the difference maker. We spoke about him at the top of the game, and if you were a non-believer before, then, well, you got to believe now.
And the other thing is, when you have Depp on the B point of Anubis as well, he's playing stuff like Brigida, he's onto stuff like Doomfist, he's not ineffective, but he's not on the Widowmaker, so...
It's not the same.
Maybe you're the blueprint to shutting down CAG, and indeed Depp is get him off the Widowmaker on non-Widowmaker maps. But Xavier are going to have to maybe look for future opportunities here. The 1 versus CAG has passed them. They're not going to get another one like that until maybe the playoffs, assuming they can make it that far. But CAG, we expected them to be the stronger team coming into this. They deliver on that. 3-1, first match of the day, done and dusted. Going to go for a break now, but when we come back, more Contender-specific action continues. We'll be joining Nova Esports and Hong Kong Attitude on the other end of this break.